Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Mid Speeds Live class. Let's go ahead and get started with some common words. Here we go. Ready? Strong, finished, parts, program, 7, road, agent, character, third, county, standard, result, miles, mailed, equipment, tired, spent, manager, various, spent, advertising, examination, leaving, turned, follow, ladder, obligated, article, plant, lady, otherwise, particularly, sometime, envelope, property, door, using, obliged, handling, national. All right. Let's go on to common briefs, or common phrases, I should say, and you're going to phrase as much as possible. All right, here we go. Shall recall, shall recollect, shall remember, shall understand, shall want, how shall, it shall, she shall, so I shall, so you shall, that he shall, that I shall, that you shall, there shall, they shall, this shall, we shall, what he shall, what I shall, what you shall, when he shall, when I shall, when you shall, where he shall, where I shall, where you shall, whether he shall, whether I shall, whether or not he shall, whether or not I shall, whether or not you shall, whether you shall, which he shall, which I shall, which you shall, who shall, you shall, she been, she believed, she believes, she can, she cannot, she could, she ever, she feels, she felt. All right. Names and addresses. All right, here we go. St. John's Public Schools, Ruth L. Root, R-O-O-T, Secretary, 501 West Sickle Street, St. John's, Michigan, 48879. Mrs. Mary G. Sturdivant, Sturdivant, Lincoln High School, 16th and Irving Streets, Washington, D.C., 20010. Ms. Polly K. Winters, Winters, 4914 Pierce Lane, Godfrey, Illinois, 62035. Career Librarian, Johnson Free Public Library, 275 Moore Street, Hackensack, New Jersey, 07601. Ms. Lana B. Schultz, SCHULTZ, Fuji Cone Incorporated, P.O. Box 349, Clinton, North Carolina, 28328. Mr. Troy W. Rank, RANK, 1502 Matthews Lane, Mamoni, Wisconsin, 54751. Ms. Cheryl W. White, WHITE, Ortho Pharmaceutical Corporation, Route 202, Raritan, New Jersey, 08969. Mr. Leon Evans, EVANS, Route 3, Box 881, Livingston, Texas, 77351. Ms. Trish Hartzell, HARTZELL, 1750 Palmer Drive, Defiance, Ohio, 43512. All right. I have some consonant compound doublets. Here we go. Ready? Spoils sport, floor show, snowflake, green thumb, breadcrumb, drumstick, steep grade, broad cloth, plate glass, dry clean, cross brace, strong glare, fresh prince, black smoke, brown bread, plaything, drill press, close friend, thrift store, flat plane, slow speed, blood clot, ground swell, broomstick, flash flood, crabgrass, drive shaft, free trip, close shave, fly wheel. All right. Moving into sentences with briefs. You're going to hear member, and you can either write that as MEM or MEB. I've seen it both ways. Require, RIR. Above, BOV. Purpose, PURP. All right, here are your sentences. He is a member of all the best clubs. Are you a member of that group yet? Joseph was a member through last year. Try to recruit strong members soon. He said that we needed new members. What can you tell me about their members? What are the good points of membership? Membership was advertised in the flyer. The membership fee is too high for me. What is the purpose of the long letter? I fail to see the purpose of any of it. This is the sole purpose of my comment. The purposes behind it are good. The exact purposes of it are unknown. Ask him to state what his purposes are. I answered purposely in that manner. He is purposely expressing his opinion. Was it purposely delivered this way? Engage in the above purposeful activities. Richard is a purposeful man. That is a purposeless exercise. Does your company require help? Does the loan require a co-signer? What are you going to require? This project requires concentration. The company requires you to fill it out. The job requires a lot of hard work. The problem required his attention. Your attention is required immediately. He required a regular payment from us. Will you be requiring more chairs? They are requiring us to make reservations. What are the parts that they are requiring? The requirement is being enforced. When was the requirement effective? Regular exercise is a requirement. The new requirements are posted. The above requirements are tough but fair. What are the requirements for admission? The sign is posted above the door. Do not write above the yellow line. see the numbers that are listed above. All right. I've got sentences that focus on final consonants, CH and SH. Here we go. I will teach you to reach the breach. They were scorched when they were beached. If you rush, you will miss the crush. They crashed because they were rushed. A crush was used by the witch. The blemished part was varnished. He used a ratchet on the switch. The trash was bleached when it was crushed. She curbed her temper over the blemish. I wish I didn't have this rash. Attach the hutch to the kitchen. I reached for the leash. Don't switch horses in midstream. His garb made him appear smashed. You can fish for fresh shrimp. She was known as a rich bitch. The nurse washed the slashed flesh. Engage the clutch and the gears will mesh. He was disturbed over the washed carburetor. They flashed the signal and the plane crashed. All right. Let's move on to some Tangle Tamers. Here we go. Ready? Systematic dehydration, psychological abuse, participation encouraged, intelligent adventurer, damaging testimony, law enforcement officer, termite extermination, insurance commissioner, biographical promotion, granted immunity, redistricting policies, surfside condominiums, painstakingly stroke, cigarette inhalation, birthday celebration, popular establishment, dream realization, professional basketball. All right. My last drill, are we doing on time? All right, so my last drill is going to focus on legal briefs. We've got contrary, which is K-R-A-E-R, contributory negligence, T-R-E-G, counsel, K-O-U-N. Let's see, we've got counselor, K-O-U-N-L, credible, K-R-E-B-L, credibility, it can be written two different ways, either K-R-E-B-L-T or K-R-E-D, come back for final B-L-T, or you can come back for final B-I-L-T. All right, it's up to you how you want to do that. And here are your sentences. Contrary to his earlier statement, he was there. If you are so contrary, you will lengthen the trial. Your testimony is contrary to that in the deposition. That whole concept is contrary to my belief. Contributory negligence is not a factor here. He was accused of contributory negligence. The defense will attempt to prove contributory negligence. Contributory negligence tempered the amount of his award. He is represented by counsel. Counsel pleaded the case brilliantly. Her counsel asked to be removed from the case. Hand the document to counsel. She needs to seek counseling. He counseled the couple yesterday. Counselor, will you approach the bench? He counsels the students at registration. The counselor will arrive soon. It was a credible story. His version of the accident was credible. She gave a credible account. Your statements must be credible. His credibility was questioned by the judge. The credibility of their actions was in doubt. Our credibility must not be questioned. The government's credibility had been shaken. All right. Let's go ahead and move into jury charge and literary. All right, so we're going to do jury charge first. Let me give you a word list. You're going to hear Kirk Anton, intimidation, violence, deprive, McCall, commencement, unambiguous, Ray Freeman, resistance, preparation, commission, devising, distinguish, which can be written as dwish, ineffectual, and extortion. All right, so I'm going to start this at 120, and I'll work my way to 140. Okay, we'll get warmed up before I hit 160. Here we go, ready? I have read you portions of the instructions as they pertain to you. I would like to define attempt for you at this time because it is the same definition as the crime of extortion, only the attempt is different. An attempt to commit a crime consists of two elements, namely a specific intent to commit the crime with specific intent to commit extortion, and a direct but ineffectual act done towards its commission. That's all you have to have. Now the instruction goes on. It is necessary to distinguish between mere preparation and the actual commencement of the doing of the criminal deed. Mere preparation, which may consist of planning the device or devising, obtaining or arranging the means for its commission. This is not sufficient to constitute an attempt. This would be like going and getting the weapons at Kirk Anton's house. The simple fact is getting those weapons. That is preparation and not attempting the crime of extortion. But acts of a person who intends to commit a crime will constitute an attempt where they themselves clearly indicate unambiguous intent to commit that specific crime and in themselves are an immediate step in the present execution of the criminal design, the progress of which would be completed unless interrupted by circumstances not intended in the original design. Of course, what was not intended in this case would be the resistance by Mr. Freeman and resistance by Officer McCall. If you believe that when they went across the park, they went over with the intention of committing an extortion, that act of going across the park, that act of putting their weapons out before they arrived at the car, these would be acts in furtherance of the attempt. In these crimes, you again have to show the elements of extortion along with the elements of attempt. What was sought was $50,500, which was held by Officer McCall and Ray Freeman. So you do have something of value. That was the first element of extortion. The money was to be taken from their immediate person or immediate possession. Again, they intended to force them to hand the money over. So that element is satisfied. The taking was to be with the specific intent through intimidation or even violence, or permanently deprive the owner of the money. And that was a little bit on the difficult side. So if you struggled with that, don't be hard on yourself. Okay. All right. I'm going to do a continuation here of nuclear power school on the Navy and nuclear power. Okay. All right. And I think I'm going to read this at 120 because this also is a little bit on the difficult side. Okay, I've got another piece of literary that I'll move up to 140 and 160, but I'll keep this one at 120, okay? Okay, here we go. The next step on the journey toward nuclear qualification takes you to Nuclear Power School, known as NPS, located on the same campus as NFA School in Charleston. Training ramps up for 6 months of college-level education in the math and science of reactor operation. Nuclear Power School provides a comprehensive understanding of a pressurized water naval nuclear power plant, including reactor core nuclear principles, heat transfer and fluid flow, plant chemistry and materials, mechanical and electrical systems, and radiological control. Some of the subjects you will explore during the 6 months of NPS include mathematics, thermodynamics, physics, electrical theory, chemistry, engineering materials, reactor plant technology, radiation controls, and reactor principles. Mathematics. This course is intended to establish a common level of understanding of arithmetic, algebra, trigonometry, analytical geometry, and calculus. It assures that everyone has the background to manipulate equations and mathematical derivations necessary to understand the physics behind the nuclear power and the operations of a nuclear propulsion plant. Physics. This course is basic physics and contains topics that are important in the latter study and the understanding of atomic and reactor physics. Emphasis is placed on understanding physical principles and the ability to solve problems related to those principles. Upon completion of this course, students will be able to solve engineering problems analytically and systematically. Electrical theory and equipment. This course introduces important operating principles of electronic equipment in the nuclear propulsion plant. Additional training is provided in theoretical fundamentals for those specializing in the electric ratings or electronic ratings. Reactor plant technology, using the groundwork of mathematics, physics, and systems instruction. This course introduces students to the fundamentals of reactor theory, design, operation, and safety. Curriculum emphasizes the solution of problems and the development of reasoning ability. Thermodynamics. This course is an introduction to the properties of steam, basic laws of steam, plant machinery, the steam cycle, and the laws of heat that transfer and fluid flow. Chemistry. This course is an introduction to the basic principles of water chemistry and chemistry control. The student will develop a working knowledge of the importance of property and proper chemistry in corrosion control and plant safety, as well as learn the parameters measured to control plant chemistry. The engineering materials, metallurgy, an introduction to the properties of metals. This course stresses the importance of metallurgical considerations in design and the operation of nuclear propulsion plants. Health physics. This course describes the property of radiation, defines potential hazards, and develops the common sense rules for behavior in the vicinity of the nuclear propulsion plant. It includes an introduction to the equipment and methods available for measuring radiation to ensure self-protection. Reactor Principles. This course introduces students to the fundamentals of reactor theory, design, operation, and safety procedures, stressing development of reasoning ability in support of nuclear propulsion plant operations. All right, so there is more, but we'll stop there. Yeah, we'll finish that in our next class. All right, so we're going to read a little bit on the continuation of Old Bodie. All right, we started this yesterday. Welcome to Bodie. So we're going to pick up on a walk through Bodie. Here we go. I'm going to start this at 140 and work my way to 160. Here we go. This self-guided walking loop visits many of the park's interesting sites. Numbered posts correspond to numbered paragraphs below. Optional side trips are indicated. Here are some of the places you will see at Bodie. Number 1, McDonnell Dolan House. Donald and son Frank McDonnell are listed as minors on the 1920 census. Donald's wife Mary was one of Bodie's postmistresses. School teacher Alice Dolan, daughter of Sheriff James Dolan, lived here briefly from 1935 to 1937. Her father was killed in a shootout near Mono Lake in 1915. Number 2, the Methodist Church. This church, built in 1882, is Bodie's only church still standing. A Catholic church, also built in 1882, burned in 1928. E.J. Clinton, head of a mining company at Bodie in the late 1920s, restored the church with his own funds and often preached sermons. An oilcloth with the 10 Commandments, which once hung behind the pulpit, was stolen. Thou shalt not steal. Number 3, D.V. Kane House, built in 1883 or 1873. This was home to David Victor Kane, son of James S. Kane. The Kane sold Bodie to California State Parks in 1962. In 1904, D.V. Kane married Ella M. Cody, a Bodie schoolteacher who later founded the Bodie Museum. You can take an optional side trip south of Fuller Street and are located the Sturgeon, Brown, and Moyle houses. Alexander Sturgeon, a dairyman in 1900, and his wife Sarah lived here with her family. William L. Brown marked and worked for the Treadwell Yukon Mining Company in the late 1920s for $1 a day. He lived here with his wife Mildred and 3 children. Thomas Moyle and family lived in the house with yellow trim. He and his brother George operated a store and soda bottling plant. Number 4, Red Barn. This barn is typical of the large barns once used throughout Bodie. You can still see some red paint on the Green Street side. Number 5, Miller House. Tom Miller, born in Canada, worked as a teamster for the Bodie Railway and Lumber Company at Mono Mills near Mono Lake. Jeffrey Pine from Mono Mills was used for mine timbers and to fuel boilers of hoisting works and stamp mills. In 1900, Miller and his wife Jessie lived here with their 2 children. On the wall, photos show Bodie's different eras. Number 6, James Stewart Kane House. James S. Kane arrived in Bodie at age 25 in 1879. He had just married Martha Delilah Wells of Genoa, Nevada. Kane entered the lumber business and put barges and a steamship on Mono Lake to transport wood. In 1888, he became a banker and kept the Bodie Bank open until 1932. In 1915, he acquired the Standard Company mining properties through court action and soon became the principal property owner in town. He always believed Bodie's mines would prosper again. Number 7, Saddle Room. The Saddle Room was part of a large stable complex in the field to the south, owned by Bodie merchant Harvey Boone. Number 8, the Morgue. This is one of 2 mortuaries remaining in Bodie. The other is near the cemetery. This building, with caskets still inside, may have been moved here in Bodie's later years, probably after 1888, when fire destroyed the Bodie House Hotel at this corner. Number 9, Miners Union Hall Museum. Built in 1878, the Miners Union Hall was central to Bodie's social life besides serving as the meeting place for union members. It hosted religious services, Independence Day, grand balls, elegant masquerade parties, school recitals, and Christmas parties for young and the old. The union was organized on December 22nd, 1877, and joined with the Western Federation of Miners as Local 61 in 1903. The building is now a museum and small bookstore. All right, we'll stop there. There is more, but we'll stop there. It's pretty interesting. If you ever have a chance to go there, it's called Bodie State Historic Park. It's right on the border of California and Nevada. And like they were talking about that mortuary, they really do have caskets still in there. It's pretty amazing. All right, so we're going to move into Q&A. I do have another drill that's a light board drill. Again, this is off the wall topic questions and answers. It doesn't really follow a pattern, so that's the challenge there. All right, I will read this. I'll read this at 120, just because it is on the challenging side. Okay, so it's strictly Q&A. Here we go. What is your city like? It's small but nice. What are you going to do on your summer vacation? I haven't thought about it. How do you spell dog? D-O-G. How often do you speak on the telephone? At least once a day. What is your busiest day of the week? Tuesday. What are you doing? I'm eating. How long have you been playing the trumpet? For 4 years. Excuse me, can you tell me where the museum is? It's at the end of this street. Where can I buy beer? At a liquor store. What were you doing last night at 7? I was sleeping. When was the last time you went shopping? Yesterday. What do you like to drink? Coffee. What are you going to do after dinner? I'll read a book. Is your mother a good cook? Yes, she is. Where do you do your homework? At home. All right. So we're going to move into some Q&A, our basic Q&A. This is going to be plaintiff attorney questioning. Let me give you a word list. You're going to hear Miss Warner, El Torito, Bullets, Macy Warner, Wilmington, Madison Street, Mr. Holden, Steve Strong, gas station. All right. Let me just state this so I know we've covered it. Again, this is going to be plaintiff questioning. I'm going to start this at 140 and work my way to 160 since we read that last one at 120. Here we go. Did Miss Warner leave you while you were still at your car at the gas station? After I gave her my gun, I left her and went down to El Torito. You gave her this pistol that is marked Exhibit 14 right there. Is that correct? That's right. Did she tell you what she was going to do with it? She told me that she knew how to make money. I gave her my gun. I told her that she had to give me $100 for using it and return it back to me by Tuesday. Did she say she would return it Tuesday, or did you say you wanted it by Tuesday? She said she would return it Tuesday. Now, up until the time you gave this pistol to her, had you ever fired it? No, I never fired it. Did you ever put bullets in it? Did I ever put bullets in it? Yes, did you? The bullets that I put them in when I took it from Holden. You said that you took this gun out of a car. Is that correct? That's right. You took it some months before June 14. Is that right? That's right. When you took it out of the car, was it loaded? It had 2 bullets in it. It had 2 bullets in it? Yeah. Did you know how to load the bullets into this gun? I knew how to operate it. All right. And did you put some more bullets in it? I put some more bullets in it. When you gave this gun to Macy Warner, how many bullets were in it? There were as many bullets in it as the gun holds, probably 6. Then you drove away from there, is that right? I drove away and went to El Torito, yeah. Did you go to El Torito or go to Mr. Holden's? I went to El Torito first. I stayed a few minutes talking to my friend, and then I stayed with him about 5 minutes. Then I drove over to Madison Street and took his car to him. Can you tell us what time it was when you drove to Madison Street to deliver the car? All I know is what time it was when I left. What time was it when you left? Well, when the old man called me, he told me it was 6:30. I said I was supposed to have the car back at 5 o'clock, and I don't have the car back. Then you left at 6:30. Is that correct? That's right. It was somewhere along in there. I don't know what time it was. All I know is that it was about that time. All right, when your car was parked on the gas station lot, you spoke to Steve Strong and to Macy Warner. Is that right? That's right. Can you tell us about how much time was used up while you spoke to Steve Strong and Macy Warner? Does he mean altogether? Yes. Well, I would say about 10 or 15 minutes. All right. I don't know for sure. Would it be fair to say that at about 6:45, you drove away from that gas station? Well, I don't know. Maybe somewhere along there. All right. And you went straight to El Torito from that gas station. Is that right? That's right. Did it take you more than 2 or 3 minutes to drive to El Torito? I don't think that it took me that long. It was just a couple of blocks down Wilmington, isn't it? About 4 or 5 blocks down there, yeah. And you only spent a couple of minutes in El Torito? I only spent about 5 minutes, like I said. All right. Let's switch transcripts. Right. So again, I'm going to start this one at 140 and work my way to 160, okay? This is defense. Do you know how old she is? She's 11 months older than I am. And does Sherry have the same parents that you do? Yes. And does Wyona? Yes. And when you were growing up as a youngster, did you reside with your sisters? Yes. And I think you mentioned you had a brother. Yes. What is his name? Robert. Do you recall his date of birth? No. Do you know if he's older or younger than you? He's 5 years older than I am. And did he reside in the family home? Yes, he did. How long did you live with your parents? Until I got married the first time. And when was that? The first time I got married? Oh, geez. It's hard to remember the year. I'd say about got out of high school in 1998. 98. After you married him, basically, did you live apart from your parents, or have you lived with your parents since that time? Say that again. Okay, good question. After 1998, when you were first married, have you lived with your parents for any substantial period? And by substantial period, more than a couple of weeks. Since I was married the first time, did I live with my parents after the marriage? Yes, yes. And when, after you were first married, did you first live with your parents? Approximately 4 months after. And how long did you live with them at that time? 11 months. Was that with your husband? No. You were separated from him? Yes. Where did he live at that time? He was in the Gulf. In the service? Yes. And you were divorced from your husband, first husband, which I didn't note, but you were divorced from your first husband? Yes. I'm not trying to. Approximately what year were you divorced from him? I believe we were married for almost 6 years. During that 6-year period, you mentioned that for a 11-month period, you lived with your parents because he was, if not because, but when he was in the Gulf. Did you reside with your parents during the remainder of that marriage for more than a couple of weeks? No. You were divorced from him and then married Mr. Bueller? Yes. And during your marriage to him, were you ever separated from Mr. Bueller? Yes, in a legal sense. And you're not an attorney, but did you separate from him in the sense that you wanted to reside apart from him? Yes. And how many times did that occur? Once. And for what period of time? 3 weeks. And in what year? That was the year we were getting our divorce. During the period of time that you were separated from Mr. Bueller, in anticipation or during the divorce, did you live with your parents? Which divorce are you talking about? From Mr. Bueller. Yes. So during that 3-week period of time, did you live most of the time with your parents? Yes. And after the divorce, did you continue to live with your parents? No. Where did you live after the divorce? Mobile home. Did you live alone? Yes. You've indicated you went to the emergency room or hospital down at the desert, and a day or 2 days later, you saw Dr. Beret in Altaloma? Yes. And at that time, you expressed what physical symptoms you experienced and generally how you felt? Yes. Have you ever been hospitalized overnight in a hospital since seeing Dr. Beret following the accident of April 8, 2009? Yes. Where have you been hospitalized? Redlands Community Hospital. Okay, any other hospital? No. When were you first hospitalized at Redlands Community Hospital? Are you talking before the accident? At any time. I thought he said after. I did earlier. I did ask you when, after the accident, were you ever hospitalized? You've indicated Redlands Community Hospital. I am now asking you, when in your lifetime were you first hospitalized at Redlands Community Hospital? When in my lifetime? When in my lifetime? You're a young lady. Before this time or after this time? I'm mixed up here. Okay, I'm not trying to confuse you. When were you first hospitalized after this auto accident of April 8th, 2009 at Redlands Community Hospital? Oh, you mean like the date? If you know, approximately a year. So 2010 that you were hospitalized? Yes. And how long were you hospitalized when you were first hospitalized there? This time in 2010. Overnight. Why did you go or why were you admitted? I said because of the D&C. And that's not connected with this accident? I wouldn't think so. Okay, and I don't mean to be rude to you. I also want to find out what you are claiming by way of damages. So that was for the D&C overnight. And as far as you know, that was not connected with the accident. No. Is he correct? Correct. Have you been admitted as a patient to Redlands Community Hospital since that time? No. Were you a patient at Redlands Community Hospital before the accident? Yes. On how many occasions? Twice. Can you generally tell me why you were hospitalized? DNC. Did any of the 3 hospitalizations, the 2 before the accident and the 1 after the accident, have anything to do with anxiety? No. Did they have anything to do with complaints to your back? No. Did it have anything to do with complaints to your neck? No. Okay, have you been hospitalized anywhere else since the accident of April 8, 2009? No. Have you seen, weren't you at San Antonio Community Hospital? Yes, I thought he knew all that. I think she's confused, counsel. That's fine. Okay, I was hospitalized after the accident at San Antonio Community Hospital for 3 months. How soon after the accident? 3 days. So shortly after the accident, you were hospitalized? Yes. Why were you hospitalized for that 3-month period? What did you feel? I'm not trying to make you the doctor. Okay, I was terribly afraid to be around anybody, to do anything. I cried a lot. I had a lot of depression. My back hurt. My head hurt terribly. I had terrible nightmares where I would wake up screaming. Had you ever had any feeling of depression before you were hospitalized at San Antonio shortly after the accident? Now, can you say that again, please? Sure. You've indicated to my inquiry that you were hospitalized for approximately 3 months at San Antonio, 3 or 4 days after the accident. You've indicated to me, as far as you know, that why you were a patient at the hospital is that you were afraid of people, that you cried a lot, and that you were depressed. Yes. Did you have any of those feelings or similar feelings before the accident? No. Had you ever seen a doctor or medical person or been hospitalized for depression before the accident of April 8, 2009? No. Okay, I'm going to switch transcripts because we only have a few minutes left. Okay. Make sure you get your variety of material here. All right. And I will read this at 140 because it is colloquy, okay? There's the issue of the ownership of the jacuzzi and whether or not there's any amount owed to the respondent's mother. Ownership of it's a portable spa, correct? Correct. We have the support issue. Support, all right. Spousal, we have attorney's fees. We were able to make headway on dividing some of the personal property. There are several items left as there's a dispute as to characterization and possession. I mentioned attorney's fees and costs. Yes, there's an issue as to the characterization of the 2009 Ford Escort. There are credit cards requested of the petitioner anyway. The house, I think we agree, needs to be sold. How the proceeds need to be distributed was another issue. I believe that, Ms. Hendrickson, do you agree with these particular trial issues? Yes, Your Honor. We do think there's an additional issue, though, as to the fair rental value of the house, which Mr. Netter has resided continuously in since the separation in October of 2015. I thought you agreed to that yesterday in chambers. No, Your Honor, we did not agree to that. We indicated there was what do you think a fair rental value is? We believe the fair rental value is $19.50 a month, and he is, Mr. Anderson, we believe it's $18.50 and would agree to $1,900. Ms. Hendrickson, $1,900? Yes, for the purposes of resolution. The court finds the reasonable rental value to be $1,900. Any other trial issues, Ms. Hendrickson? There's an issue of spousal support, Your Honor, and he's already mentioned that. Mr. Anderson has outlined what he feels the trial issues are. My question to you is, are these the trial issues? Are there more or less? That appears to be the extent of the issues at this time. Good. All right. Let's start with issue number 1, the issue concerning the loan. Mr. Anderson, can I call Cindy Netter? Mrs. Netter, please come forward. Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly state that the testimony you shall give in the matter now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Please be seated and state your first and last name for the record. Cindy Netter. Okay, Mr. Anderson, did you and Mr. Netter ever receive a check from his parents? Yes, we did. And do you recall when that was? Not the exact date. It was prior to purchasing our home in 2006. And the amount, do you recall what the amount was? $120,000. Who is that written out to? I believe Steve and myself. Your Honor, I have pre-marked some exhibits, so this ends up being exhibit number 14 on mine in every reference and everything else. If we could mark things out of order. Mark for identification 14. Yes, 14. May I approach, Your Honor? Yes, you may. Exhibit 14. Would you take a look at that and describe it for me? It's a check from his parents made out to both Steve and myself for $120,000 signed by his father. And the date? 1/21/06. Is there a notation in the memo area or this area there? Yes, there is. And what does that say? Loan. Was that there when you signed it? I don't believe it was. Would you look at that? Does that appear to be Mr. Stan Netter's handwriting? I object. That's not within the personal knowledge of this. She has testified that the signature on the check was his signature. Mr. Anderson, can you lay a foundation concerning her? Have you ever seen Mr. Stan Netter's signature before? Yes, I have. And his handwriting? Yes, I have. And does that appear to be his signature on that check? Yes, it does. Does that appear to be his handwriting where it has the names written on there? Yes. Does it appear to be his handwriting where loan is written? It would be hard for me to say. A lot of the letters. Take a look at there are 2 signatures on the back. Yes, there is. Do you recognize those? Yes, I do. And whose signatures are they? The top one is mine, and the bottom one is Stephen's. Do you contend that this was a loan to the 2 of you? No, I don't. It never was intended as a loan? Not to my knowledge, no. I never discussed it with his parents. You never discussed the issue with his parents? What was it? A gift? Did you know it was coming? Yes, I did. How did you know it was coming? Steve told me. He said that they were giving you $120,000. That his father was, yes. Now you know that we contend it was a loan. Do you know whether or not anything was paid as far as interest on this? Not to my knowledge. You never signed a check or paid any money? Not against this check, no. Not against this check. Did you ever pay any money? We had borrowed money from his mother later on, and we had returned it, paid it back. All right, that concludes our Mid Speeds Live class. Have a wonderful day.